I'm going to show you how to make a card using a foil transfer kit, as well as how to score, cut and write on the same card. I decided to make a Valentine's Day card and wanted to make a really simple design. I started by searching for heart in the editable images tab and found a couple I liked. I added them to my canvas and altered the designs until I had the design I wanted. I'm not going to lie, I put my name on the card and made this for myself, as we don't celebrate Valentine's in our household, and so I made this for the sake of the video. Anyway, I highlighted everything and clicked attach and went to the operations drop down and selected foil. I tried fine, medium and bold and settled on bold. This automatically changed the colour of the heart to gold, which is exactly what I wanted. I then searched for Valentine's and again added a few to my canvas that I liked. I was looking for a nice Happy Valentine's Day text and maybe something else. I tried a few options out and settled on having Happy Valentine's Day written above the heart. I again changed the operation to foil, this time the medium option, and then selected and changed the colour to silver. Later on I did actually end up changing this to bold. I highlighted the heart and text and clicked centre horizontally. I then needed to size up my design. I added in a square from the Shapes tab, as I prefer the square edges of the square than the curved edges on the rectangle, and then I changed the dimensions to 14 by 20 centimetres. I placed my design on top of the rectangle, made it a little smaller, and changed the colour to red as I thought this would match the cardstock I would be using. Later on you'll see that I actually ended up going for a pink card. Now I wanted to design the inside of my card. I'm going to show you how I did it initially, but I also do have a quicker version of how to do this, which I'll show you shortly as well. Firstly, I duplicated the rectangle and added a text box and then added my text. I resized the text and centered it on the rectangle. I changed the operation from basic cut to pen and then set about looking for a font that was specifically a writing font. I settled on BFC Coffee Shop. Again, I resized and centered the text. Now the quicker way to make up the card as a whole is as follows. I added another new square from the Shapes tab. I made this to be the correct length but double the width of the card, so it ended up being 18 centimetres by 14 centimetres. I then added a scoreline from the Shapes tab and changed the size to match the length of the card, which was 14 centimetres, and I highlighted the card and the scoreline and clicked Align Centre and Align Horizontally. I attached the card and the scoreline. I then made sure the heart was attached to Holly and duplicated this. I dragged it over one half of the rectangle, resized it and did the same with the silver text. I highlighted both designs and clicked Align Horizontally one more time. It was at this point that I changed the silver foil to bold. I hid everything I didn't want to make at this point, which left me with the pink card, scoreline, Happy Valentine's Day text and the heart with my name on it, and then I clicked Make. Just a note here, ideally I would like the scoreline to be on the inside of the card, but this would actually put the scoreline on the outside of the card. The card still looks great though, so I'm happy with it this way round. The other way to do it is to add the scoreline in when you turn the card over and do the writing, but you can't guarantee that the line will actually be in the centre because it may not match up exactly where the card is on the mat. Going forward with the whole project, Design Space will tell you what to do, but oddly it can be hard to trust or figure out what it actually wants you to do. First of all, it will tell you what tools to add. I needed to add the rotary blade and the foil transfer tool with the bold tip. I don't have a rotary blade, so clicked Change Tools and added the stylus tool into clamp A. I then added the bold tip to the foil transfer tool by pressing down on the end of the tool and adding in the bold tip. This is the one with 3 lines on it. I then popped it into clamp B. Because you've already put in the foil transfer tool, it almost looks like you have to add foil at this point, but you don't. So don't do that. I loaded the card onto the blue mat and just double checked that everything would still fit on the card. Now here, once you load the mat and press go, the only thing that happens is that the stylus will score the scoreline. Afterwards, the mat will be pushed out, but do not unload the mat or everything else will not line up properly, so do not unload the mat. Design Space then prompted me to load the first colour foil on the card, which is already on the mat, and for me this was gold. When you attach the foil on top of the card, it's really important to make sure that the foil is taut when you do this. The foil comes with its own tape, which is actually really easy to use. I've tried a couple of different versions for how to tape it, so I think my preferred method was to tape the top and then pull it really tight, tape down the bottom, then tape down one side followed by the other side, and if needs be, lift up one tape and then redo this one. That for me made all of the difference. Of course, if you can't get it really tight, just do the best that you can. I usually have to restick one section to make it tight on the card. And just make sure here to not put tape over where the design is. Now double check here that you've put the foil on the correct part of the card with the foil colour up. When I first used foil, I actually put it on the wrong side of the card by accident because my brain thinks the left hand side of the card is where the foil goes, whereas actually in this make it goes on the right hand side of the card. So double check and please don't make the same mistake that I did. When I was happy with the foil, I then pressed go. This is where the foil transfer tool will do its thing. Again, when finished, the Cricut will push the mat out, but do not press unload. Next, Design Space told me to load the other colour foil. I attached the silver foil in the same way as I did with the gold, although I did try using a different taping method here, and I think I preferred this technique to the gold. When I was finished, I pressed go so the Cricut Maker 3 could do its thing. When the Cricut Maker was finished, Design Space then told me to put the fine point blade into clamp B to finish the cut. So this part just cut out the outside of the card. Once I did this, I pressed go for the last time, or for the time being anyway, and the outline of the card was cut out. I was finally able to unload the mat. I flipped it over, peeled the mat away from the card, and then inspected a very pretty card which I was really happy about. For the last part, I wanted the Cricut to write on the inside of the card, so I didn't fold the card along the scoreline just yet. Back in Design Space, I made sure that my message was visible and I hid everything else. I just double checked here that I was still on a writing font and a pen setting, as sometimes oddly it can change. Now's the tricky and also most important part. I lined up the card in the top right hand corner of the blue mat with the foil design face down. The way that I've done it here is that the writing has to go on the right hand side on the blank part of the card, so I made sure this would still work with the way I had put the card on the mat. Back in Design Space, I roughly positioned the writing in the centre of the right hand side of the card by using the card measurements I already had. So I halved the size of the width, which gave me 9 centimetres, so I had to work between 9 centimetres and 18 centimetres, and then knew I roughly wanted it about halfway down here. So I roughly tried to position it in the centre of the whole of the right hand side of the card. Once happy, I set to work. Again, Design Space prompted me to add the Cricut pen to clamp A. I went for a red pen as I thought it would look nice against the pink, even though Design Space thinks I'm using a black pen. I then loaded the mat and pressed go, and the writing began. When the Cricut finished, I unloaded the mat, flipped it over and peeled the mat away from the card. And the card looks great. I then folded it in half along the scoreline. All I had to do now was pop it in an envelope and send it to myself. I'm so happy with how this card looked. Did you find the foil tricky to get right, or did you nail it first time?